So, Andy, excuse me, is that the difference at this level? You're always talking about small margins, keeper that's prone to an error one end and one at the other that you know is reliable.
Well, it helps, Richard, enormously. You know, there's only probably two players in the last 15 years that I can think about that have never suffered from lack of confidence, and that would be Messi and Ronaldo. I think everybody else who's ever played the game at some time in his life has had a little bit of confidence issues. Nige, myself, anybody. And I think that's where Kepa is right here, right now. I think his confidence is shot. I think he's talented. I think he's a good goalkeeper. But right now, he instills no confidence, I don't think, in any Chelsea player who's defending in front of him. And I think Frank's realised that. And I think that tonight, his mistake tonight has made Frank's mind up, if he hadn't already, that he needs to change the goalkeeper. I remember Ron Atkinson saying to me at some time, Richard, when I was his coach at Villa, sometimes with a goalkeeper, even though you like him and he's a good lad and he's not done bad, you have to leave him out for his own sake and the team's. And I think that's where they're at now. Even if they didn't get the new keeper out, and I'd leave him out next game. Because making mistakes like this, I mean, the defenders will just look around and go, oh no, lost Christensen, and we don't need you doing that. We all make mistakes. I've said that, you're right. But that's cataclysmic.
Yes.
You know, it's an error that finished the game, if it wasn't already. It totally finished it. As soon as Liverpool went 2-0 up, that was it. They controlled the game, wasn't a problem. Did give away a sloppy penalty, but the keeper saved it. And therein lies the difference.
I was just saying, Nigel, wasn't I, watching that, the only way I can see for Chelsea is that you send him on loan for a season with a view to somebody. If you get lucky and he has a good season, giving you 35 and a half back, but they're never, ever going to see the outlay again. No,
for sure not. Especially in the form that he is right now. You know, that's what Andy was touching base on as well. The confidence level on his part right now is so low. You see that his body language. He doesn't have no confidence. And as a goalkeeper, that is even double frustrated because you only have one position to defend. You can only play on one position. So when you're out, that means you're out. So you have no chance to play on another position. So he knows that as well. He knows. You see that in the way how he plays, the way how he reacts to his defenders. You know, the excessive finger pointing to his defenders what to do, just to give him a little bit more confidence, and also to show his coach that he's capable to remain number one of Chelsea.
Meanwhile, at the other end, you've got a keeper that saved a penalty from Jorginho today, who doesn't miss. But I repeat, small margins.
Exactly.
This goes 2-1, who knows?
Exactly, and that is exactly what we touched base on before the second half started. What is the difference in goalkeepers? By Kepa, you never have a feeling that he is being the main man that saves a lot of goals and saves a lot of penalties. At the other side, Alisson, if you see how he defends his goal, if you see how many points he saves for Liverpool, and especially also this goalkeeper, it can turn around. After this is 2-1, with 10 men, there's all to play for.
A couple of things here. Memo to all those who got hysterical about the retake at Old Trafford. The reason the penalty was retaken at Old Trafford yesterday is because the keeper was off his line. There's an example of a keeper being able to save a penalty and doing it correctly. As Andy said yesterday, if you're 2 inches offside, you're offside. If you're 2 inches off your line, you're off your line. So it can be done. But here's a point I'd like to refer back to that I made to you, Mr. Gray, on the opening weekend of the season. I like my centre forward to take penalties, right? If Werner takes last week's, he might be 2 in 2. Right now he's 2 in zip, and I'm saying, when's Werner going to score a goal?
Well, let me counter that by saying Jorginho hasn't missed one yet.
Granted, I know, but I'm just saying, I want you off the mark, Timo. There's your pen, there's another one, 2 goals, brilliant, pressure off.
Yeah, but you can't just say to Jorginho, by the way, we're taking you off pens because you haven't missed any. Oh, thanks very much for that, Gaffer, that's great. I know what you're saying.
I can,
well, that's why
I can, Andy. He's not as important to me doing what Werner does, which is score goals. I know what you're saying, he hasn't missed one, but centre-forwards take penalties, don't they? Or they should do.
Well, not every centre-forward took penalties, I have to say.
I know, there's an exception, all right, okay.
But no, what I'm saying, Richard, the most important thing for Frank right now is to win a football match, right? Now, the penalty taker, who's been solid, reliable, hasn't looked like missing since he arrived in the country, right? Has been penalty after penalty. Funnily enough, and I wish I'd been with you guys in the studio, I never fancied him tonight.
Really? Fascinating. Why?
I really didn't.
Why?
Because the night, it was something about the game, Richard. Nothing was going right for Chelsea. The standing off, the goalkeeper's error, Liverpool cruising. And I think it just shook Liverpool a bit. And I thought, the penalty, I don't fancy him. And I thought, I fancy the big keeper to make a save. It was like the contrast in keepers, you mentioned it. We've got the keeper at one end, conceding the second goal, it was all important. The keeper in the other end, making a great save. Frank will look round and say, hold on, if we'd have stayed at 1-0, we might have got something out of this game. We didn't, because the goalie threw one.
Just another question on what we're looking at here. The yellow eventually turned to red after VAR's intervention. But should the keeper have stayed home? Was there any need to come? Did Christensen have to do what he did?
I think so. I think the keeper has to come because yeah, of course, he's that extra player at the end of the line. So he has to come there and try to get the ball away. And if it was just a minor like decision for him just to take the ball there. But Christensen thought that he would, that the goalkeeper would never come close to the ball, and that's why he just made a foul.
So, Andy, a word about Chelsea. In contrast to what we saw on match day 1, what did you make of them today?
Still a work in progress. I was a little disappointed, Richard, if I'm honest. When you saw what Leeds did or tried to do or attempted to do in that opening game and tested Liverpool by committing men forward, getting on the front foot, trying to play the game as often as possible in Liverpool's half, I was a little disappointed. Whether Frank deliberately said, we're going to contain them, we're going to sit in this game maybe for an hour, and if it's 0-0, fine. We can always try and win the game in the last half hour. But as I said to you, I think they were really scared of what happened a minute before half-time happening more often, is that if they committed too many men forward, then they were liable to getting caught in transition, and that's what happened. And I think they were reluctant to go forward. Relied a lot on the front three today, the way that Liverpool do. The three midfield players were functional rather than being creative. And the front three aren't as good as Liverpool's. Certainly Havertz looks like he's going to take a little bit of time to settle in. Werner looks like he'll settle in quickly, and Mason Mount is still learning his trade. So there was a big gulf between the front threes today as well, I thought. But for Frank, it's how they respond to this now. I don't think he'll take too much interest in the second half. But I would advise him to have a good look at the first half, see how his team played. And I just think they need to be a little more productive, a little more offensive, particularly at home. It doesn't matter who you're playing, but particularly at home with the quality of players they've got.
Do you know what I thought watching that today? It's the first game really that it's been very evident for me. That game needed a crowd.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea needed a crowd, didn't they?
They needed a 12th man.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge miss. Now discussing, my view is, Jim, Timo Werner, my centre forward. I know Christian's, Jorginho, he takes good penalties, but I'm giving the ball to Werner and saying, that's yours. As someone who did that job, would you want that ball on a match day now?
Richard, that is a silly question, Richard. Come on, me. Come on, I'm going to take that ball, and I think that Andy will take that ball as well. I don't know the character of Werner if he is a penalty taker. That is the difference. But then on the other hand as well, when I signed for Chelsea, and on my debut there was a penalty. My captain gave me the ball. And he knew that it was important for me to get off the mark. And he said, Jimmy, go and score. Take the penalty. At the time, it was Frank Leboeuf who was taking penalties. And he was basically saying, Dennis Wise was basically saying, it won't be important if Frank Leboeuf scores a goal. It will be important if our striker scores a goal and get confidence from that.
Yeah, well, 3-3 Werner last year for Bayern, but I can imagine. Listen, that's obvious, isn't it? Take the ball off LeBeuf, and you got Jimmy Floyd.
You got a difference between
Come
the
on.
both.
Exactly.
You got Hasselbank in your squad.
That's
Man, it's the Unabomber, you know what I mean? Like,
That's a no-brainer.
I mean, it's no-brainer. You know, it's a no-brainer. But I mean, that's what we said.
Oh,
as well. That's what
guys,
I said to you as well. I said, you know, to get off that mark, you know, to break that deadlock, I think for Wayne it's so important to get on that score sheet, you know, and just give him that confidence. And of course, like, I understand what Andy tried to say, as well as Chelsea has to find a way to win games. But it is also for the long run. Do you going to give him your main number one striker
Listen,
the
I
confidence?
get the argument that he's taken them, hasn't missed them, so therefore. But anyway,
of course, I understand.
Jim, once again, thank you, my friend.
No,
Great to see you.
exactly.
Go on.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
Good to see you, man.
Look after yourself. Great lad, Jimmy Floyd. And obviously back with Andy very shortly.